All right, guys, I am going to teach you how to best use the calculator, okay? I know you know how to use a calculator, but this special calculator is the calculator you are going to use for the next 6 to 10 years of your school career, okay? This fancy calculator has a lot of buttons. It is only effective if you know how to use it, so I want to spend some time teaching you how to use it, okay? So we're going to take some notes. If I write it on paper, I need you to copy that into your journal so you have it as a reference. Okay? So first thing is the on button, which I know most of you probably figured out how to use the on button. Let me turn this light off so it's not right on the... All right. Let's scoot it over. There we go. Okay. So the on button is right here. Now everything that is in blue above the buttons, you have to push the second button first in order to make that button happen. So pi is one of the irrational numbers we talked about already. If you notice pi, it is the button right here above this up arrow. Okay, it's blue. So when I push second, let go, blue, the pi button pops up. It's 3.14, blah, 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 blah. Goes on and on. It's an irrational number. Okay. The pi button is important for you to know. Again, some people want to push them at the same time. Nothing happens. You have to push second, let go, blue. Okay, whoops, I pushed the wrong button, sorry. Second, and then the blue button. Okay, so the second button is very important. So let's go ahead and write that. To get to a blue button, we'll call this calculator reminders. Again, if I'm writing, make sure you are writing this in your journal. Okay, so to get a blue command, type or push the second button. Okay, and there's nothing crazy about it, like the second button is blue. So if I want to get to a blue button, I push the blue second button. If I want to get to a green button, which we won't use in middle school, but the green button gets me to all of these other green letters. Okay. All right. Now, the thing that you most need to help you, the thing that's going to be the best tool, is the fraction button. Okay. Again, you get to use this on STAR test. So every day you need to be using the calculator to practice how to use it. Okay. If I don't use it, then on STAR, this isn't a helpful tool for me. Okay. On STAR, this actual calculator will be on your computer program. So you need to get used to the buttons, how to use it, how to be efficient, all the things. Okay. So fractions are very important. So fractions. All right. Alpha y equals is going to be anytime you want anything to do with a fraction. Anytime you want a fraction. Right? So let's take a minute. On your calculator, push alpha, which is green. I know I just told y'all we wouldn't be using that a lot, but you do use it for y equals. Okay? So I have an n and a d, which means numerator over denominator. So if I push enter, all of a sudden I can type in a fraction. 3 down arrow fifths. So now I can multiply 3/5 by another fraction. Notice that right now my arrow is blinking on the 5. If I arrow over, now I can push times, and then I can enter another fraction. Alpha y equals enter. So say I want to do 3/5 times 7 down 8. Okay. Again, you have to get that blinking arrow all the way over before you do anything else. Okay. And then, bam, there's my answer. It gives you a simplified fraction as your answer. Okay. So alpha y equal, so let's write this down. So if I do the 1, that's how I enter a fraction. Okay, that's going to be probably the most useful button that you have. Now, what if this was STAR test or a DCA and it was a griddable question and it wanted me to enter it as a decimal? Okay, so let's go back to our calculator. Let's look at alpha y equals again. The second one is when you have a mixed number. The third one is when you want to go from mixed to improper. The fourth one is probably going to be the second most popular thing that you do, which is fraction to decimal. So the F to D means fraction to decimal. So let's push 4, or you can arrow down, and you're like, it didn't do anything. You have to push enter. Okay? Now it converts that fraction to a decimal. Now you also probably know that a fraction is a division problem. So yes, you could technically just do 21 divided by 40, and you're going to get the same answer. Okay? If you can't remember that a fraction is a division problem, alpha y equals is a great way to change it. Now what if you got it as a decimal and I want to change it back to a fraction? It's the same thing. Alpha y equals, again, I like to push 4, but you can also arrow down and push enter. Now it says F to D, but notice the arrows are going both ways. So it can also turn a decimal into a fraction. So what's it again? Alpha y equals, okay? So the 4 button lets you go from a fraction to a decimal. Okay, now remember I said the arrow goes both ways. So it's not just a fraction to a decimal, it's also a decimal to a fraction. So you need to know how to go both ways. Fraction to decimal, decimal to fraction. Make sure you know how to do both. Okay? Again, those are the most popular ones. You do have to push enter when that blinks to make you go down to the next one. Okay? Now, if you want a mixed number, like if I have 2.5, alpha y equals, okay, you can push 2, and notice it gives you a spot for a whole number. So I would put 2. Now you do have to look at the arrow over, 1, arrow down, 2. Again, you cannot have your arrow blinking there. Your arrow has to blink to the side. So if I want to do 2.5 divided by -3, okay, don't push the minus sign because that is going to give me an error. Okay? Don't push the minus because I said a negative. Okay? So down below the 3 is the negative sign. And it gives me it as a fraction. And again, if I want it as a decimal, alpha y equals 4, enter, gives me a decimal. Now, since I went ahead and turned it to a decimal, just for review, this is a repeating decimal. So to classify a repeating decimal, is it rational or irrational? You are correct. It is rational. Remember, repeating decimals are rational. Okay? All right, so fraction to decimal is F4. Now, some of you may not have known that, so I want you to know that the negative sign is below the 3. Okay? Make sure you have that written down. It looks like this. It's in parentheses. Okay? You cannot use the minus sign if it has another operation. Okay? You can't put divide minus. You could put divide by negative, which is what we did. All right, I know y'all have already talked about square roots, but maybe you haven't used calculators much or you don't remember. And again, the more you use this tool, I promise the easier it's going to get. Okay? Again, super useful tool. You have to know how to use it. Okay? Watch this video as many times as you need. So, square root. Okay, this is called square root. This symbol is called a radical. There is a radical sign on our calculators. Okay? If you look very closely, it's right above x squared and it's blue. So if I want to get to a blue button, what do I have to push first? Excellent. Yes, we want to push the blue button. Okay, second. So second, square root. And bam, there it is. Okay, so the square root of 100, enter, is 10. Hopefully you knew that. Okay, that is a perfect square. Now you could do the square root of a fraction by doing second square root. And now I want to add a fraction. So we're going to combine some steps here. Alpha y equals, enter. Let's say I want to do the square root of of 9. I'm trying to do a perfect square. 9/16. Okay, remember I have to arrow over. Don't push enter until your arrow is blinking on the side. Okay, and then it gives me 3/4. And again, just for practice, if I want to make that a decimal, alpha, y equals, and then which one do I push? Yes, I want to push 4 because I'm going fraction to decimal, okay? So the square root sign, you push the second button, and then you push the x squared button. And again, I promise once you do this a lot, you'll have it memorized. You won't need these notes, but I want you to have these notes written so you can refer back to it. Now, if I want to square a number or to raise a number, I want to give it an exponent, okay? There is an x squared button, but that doesn't really help me if I need to raise it to something other than 2. All right? So like if I wanted to do 5 squared, yes, I could literally just type 5 x2 and enter. It's 25. And again, you probably knew that. But if I want to raise 2 to the 5th power, so this would be 5 and then x squared. But if I want to do 2 to the 5th power, when they're in a box, that's the button. Okay, so 2, and then you have a button that has an up arrow. Okay, does anybody see where that is located? Give you a hint, it's on the right side. Yes, okay, it's right here under the clear. So I type in 2, whoops, and then I type in the up arrow button, and you notice that it makes it an exponent, which is exactly what I want. I want it to be an exponent. I want it to raise up, okay? And now I'm going to type 5 as my equation. Now, again, notice my arrow is blinking up, so I need to push over to bring it back down. So 2 to the 5th is 32, because that means 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay, it's the same thing, but it's more effective to use the square button, the exponent button. Okay. All right, I want you to practice. I want you to do 7 to the 3rd power, negative 2 to the 3rd power. I'm going to give you a second to do those, okay? Look at the ones I just did. Take a moment. See what you get. Be careful, that second one is a negative, so remember how to do that to a negative power. All right, so I wrote my little steps here. I did 7, exponent 3, and hopefully when you solved that, you got 343. Okay, if you did not, look at my steps, 7, up, 3. Now on this one, my first button was a negative 2, and then I raised it to the 3rd power. That equals negative 8. Okay. If you need help, you'll have some more time to practice. Hopefully you got it right. At least write down the steps. Again, when I put stuff in a box, that means it's a button. Okay. So I guess I should have done this. The alpha is a button. The y equals is a button. Okay. All right. Sometimes we get stuck in some kind of weird screen. Okay. If you get stuck in some weird screen, I need you to push second. That's the button. And then right beside it, it says mode. Okay. And if you look in blue, it says quit. You're like, oh man, I accidentally got into a probability game, or I got into one of these buttons and I don't know how to get out. Second, quit. Brings you back to a blank screen. Okay. This is if you're lost. You got on a screen somehow and you don't know how you got there and you just want to get back. Okay. All right. So we know how to do powers. We know how to do squaring. We know how to turn fractions to decimals. We know how to simplify. So to simplify a fraction, let's enter a fraction. Let's do one that we all know how to simplify, 50 over 100. Okay, I'll give you a second to enter that. Remember, it's alpha y equals enter, 50 on top, arrow down, 100. Okay, now I know that you guys are smart enough to know what that is simplified. It's 1/2. We know that. Okay, I just want to show you how easy it is to let the calculator do it. Okay, 50 over 100, enter. Surprise, surprise, it's 1/2. So if you want to simplify a fraction, literally all you have to do is type it in and push enter. That's it. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Now, when we are done, at the end of every single class, I need you to do this because it clears it out so no one gets your answers. Second plus 7, 1, 2. And it will say RAM cleared or something. Okay? You want to do that at the end of every single class period. It's also a good idea to do that at the beginning because if someone messes with your settings and you don't know it, then you're going to be upset. Okay, so at the beginning and end of every class, really, you should be practicing this. Second plus 712 every single day. Okay? All right, that is all I have for calculator reminders. In just a minute, you're going to get a scavenger hunt where you're going to practice doing some of this stuff again. Okay? Now, before I let you go, I do want to go over quickly a reminder on how to combine like terms because from what I understand, y'all are still a little bit confused. You have notes on it, okay? I teach 8th grade, so I don't know, yours might be a different color, but we use the same paper. Okay, mine's green. It was this sheet where we looked at things being alike, okay? I can only combine things that are like, okay? I'm not putting a liquid and a solid. Well, I guess that's not a very good example. Okay, you can only combine things that are alike. Like when you're washing clothes, you need to keep your whites separated from your darks. You need to keep your towels, because they shed everywhere, separate from your clothes, okay? So think of it like that. You're keeping things that don't belong together separated. You cannot combine them, okay? Combine means to put together. So combine means we're adding or subtracting. So I'm just going to do a couple of reminders with you because you are going to have some practice on this as soon as I finish these notes, okay? So let's do a few practice problems. Okay, we're still in our notes because I want you to be able to refer back to these. Okay, combine like terms. All right, we'll start off real easy. -2 plus 6 plus 3 minus x. Okay, so what your algebra teachers would like to see when you come next year is that you are following these same steps that they're going to teach you. So the first thing you want to do is box all of your x's, or your variable, whatever your variable is. Well, this is easy because I just have one. Notice that I am taking the sign with me. Okay, now if there's nothing in front of here, that's just 1. Okay, so I have 1x, so -x. Okay, now I want to combine all my plain numbers, and again, I make sure I take the sign. -2 plus 6 plus 3. You're using this calculator unless you have your integer rules perfectly memorized. -2 plus 6 plus 3, enter. So 7. Now that was a positive 7, so I'm just going to add a plus 7 in there. Okay, so I'm putting a box around my x's and I'm circling my plain numbers. Next year in algebra, you're going to have multiple variables, so then you'll do something different. Okay, let's try another one. Let's do 4x plus 2x minus 9 minus 12y plus 6. Okay? You are going to do this, so this is a very important staple of this unit. So it might seem silly, but we're going to be doing this a lot in the next couple of weeks. So it's really important you understand. I'm going to use a different color so we don't mix up. Okay, first I get my x's. So I have a 4 plus 2. Oops, I didn't mean to do a y. Sorry, I don't want to overwhelm you. I'm going to change that to an x. That was my bad, sorry. Change that to an x. Okay. I'm going to take that minus sign with it because it belongs to it. So take it with it. Okay. So now you have 4 plus 2 minus 12. 4 plus 2 minus 12 equals negative 6x. Okay, if you can do that in your head, perfect. But again, some of you don't know your integer rules. So if you don't know your integer rules, there is no point in you struggling because you're going to get a calculator on STAR. I need you to get practice with the process. We don't have time to practice with you knowing how to add and subtract. Okay, at this point, we hope that you have that down. All right, now I'm left with negative 9 plus 6. Again, if you don't know your integer rules, use that calculator. But I know this one. This is minus 3. Okay, there's no equal sign. I'm not doing anything crazy. I'm just combining like terms. Let's do just one or two more together. Okay, let's do 15 minus 8, 15n minus 8 plus 3 plus n. Okay, first thing I want to do is box my variables. Okay, this time my variables are n. That's okay. 15n. Now that negative does not belong to the 15 because the 15 is positive. All right, my other variable is plus n. So I have 15, and then if there's nothing in front of that n, what does that mean? Okay, that means there's an invisible 1. You would never say, I need one piece of paper. I need one volunteer. No, we used to say the word, I need a piece of paper. I need a volunteer. I need a Band-Aid. We all know that means 1. Okay, so when there's nothing in front of it, it means 1. So this is really 15 plus 1, which gives me 16n. Okay, so those are connected. Now I just have plain numbers. Negative 8 plus 3. Again, I know this, but if you don't know your integer rules, I want to remind you how to use the calculator. It's a negative 8. It's not a minus 8 because this is not part of it. It's its own separate little thing. So negative 8 plus 3, negative 5. And seriously, that is all you're doing, okay? Take it step by step. Don't make it harder than it is, okay? It's going to get more difficult because we're going to be doing other like terms. But right now, we're just combining on one side. Okay, last one. 17 minus 5t minus 7 minus 2t plus 7t. All right, and I really shouldn't have used the letter t because it looks like a plus sign, but oh well. All right, so first I want to get my variables. I have a negative 5t. That's a constant plain number. This 2t has a variable, and this 7t has a variable. Okay, so yes, you can combine 3 like terms. It is okay. Sometimes you're going to have 3 or 4. So negative 5 minus 2. Again, I don't know my integer rules, but I'm going to use my calculator. Negative 5. Now because I'm going here, it's a minus 2 plus 7. That equals 0. So my t's actually canceled out. Okay, so I don't write 0t because there's nothing left. Okay, then we have 17 minus 7, which is just 10. Okay, so again, if you're not sure why, negative 5 minus 2 plus 7, this is negative 7 plus 7, that equals 0. That's why I don't have a t anymore. Okay, go step by step, circle your plain numbers, put a box around your variables, and that's all we're doing. Okay, you're going to be given an assignment in just a minute by your teacher. The first side is combining like terms. It's just practicing what we just did. Notice there's no equal sign. Okay, it's just practicing what we just did. On the back, there are some questions asking you if you know how to use your calculator. Okay, this is what you are going to work on. Ask your teacher if you need help. All right, use these calculator reminders, use these combining like term reminders, and do the best you can. All right, good luck.